So I cover both design, art side, and mechano-informatics side to create something new in terms of way of working, in terms of talent development. KMD and I share, I guess, some common visions. I met Professor Inami from time to time. I consulted with Professor Inami on several occasions, so I've known him. And this is something that we at Takram does. Design, engineering are the two axes we cover. And we also have another axis, intangible and tangible. We have 4 quadrants, and our intention is to cover all those 4 quadrants evenly.
From education, well, KMD people and we got together. This is Royal College of Art, Innovation, Design, Engineering. This is a course I have taken, and I graduated from here, and I am a visiting professor. Once every 2 months, I go to this Royal College of Art, and I discuss and talk with their students. Starting from this year, GID. I am a visiting person of GID, so you get involved perhaps. Yeah, he's going. Yeah, we get together, definitely. So this is what we are doing at this moment, business, technology, and creative. This is a triangle. So this is a triangle, major, big picture. And also T and C, technology and creative will be connected. That is a design engineer. We'd like to have as many design engineers as possible. This is a proposal from my company. Thank you very much for having me today. Thank you. So now, Professor Ishido. Well, Mr. Tagawa, you're talking about RCA. You may not know of this. KMD, together with the GID program, Globally Innovation Design Program. So from each college, AMD and RCA, so college and Plato, I wanted to study over there, but from these activities, you have a lot to do with KMD. Yes. Well, I have just joined KMD. I have to go and visit you, but I'd like to have lots of discussions with the professors. Yes, this is a great starting point. Yes. My name is Ishido. Thank you for having me today. So I was wondering what I have to talk about. So this is a talk session. I was wondering what I have to talk about. Well, I myself, from Professor Minami, I was introduced to this session, and engineering is what I have majored. Robot engineering was my major. MIT Media Lab was what I have participated in. Using digital, we will be creating a new way of communicating. So Media Labo is where I was studying, and children's creativity and also imagination. This is what I'd like to talk about. PHS in high school and university, I have used communication device. Well, new technologies were in my youth era, and I have used these device with my device communicating with my friends. So that was the era I had gone through. Using new technology and the new communication will become a reality. So children now have their creativity, and also technologies will provide the children very creative arena. This is what I'd like to promote. Well, I'd like to make my talk pretty short. KMD, 2 years ago I joined KMD, and Media Lab, I graduated from MDA, and I have been trying to have a very creative learning ground involving government and business all together. KMD, this is a weekly event workshop collection from all over in Japan. Children will create some materials, and this is an exhibition event. Starting from last exhibition, we have 100 programs in place, and 100,000 people got together in 2-day-long event. Originally, well, you may acquire knowledge and memorize what you have to learn, but I'd like to have something new, something creative. If you use the word education, you have an impression of some closed environment. I'd like to make it a little bit different. Let's say this is a new trial we wanted to introduce to you. In the market, there are so many curriculums for children I have been working upon. What's active is programming. Well, children are in charge of programming now, and not only playing by themselves, but they create games. This is a learning environment I'd like to create. So this is a kind of boom. And in primary school, this is going to be an obligatory subject nowadays. In Japan, in growth strategy, programming is what was stipulated in the government learning. So programming is one prerequisite learning for children. Past 2 years, we have been teaching children programming, and it is a very big move nowadays. Using animation, past 10 years, we have been working on such workshops. Well, earthquake-stricken area children are now having this workshop. So from earthquake-stricken area, we would like to make a contribution by offering such workshops. 700 people got together, and in some areas we would like to maintain these programs so that we will be able to strengthen and also stimulate communities. Well, in Google environment, it was given high opinion, and we have done some interviews last year, and we would like to expand this program all over the world with Mr. Schmidt, who is the chairman of this endeavor. We do not have so much time, but I'd like to introduce to you what kind of activities we are doing. What children's creative learning area should be created? Well, to create means a lot of things. Well, there are some areas we would like them learn. So create areas together with government and industry and universities got together. From 3 corners, we wanted to create materials and packages, and 300 facilities have accommodated our creation. We are talking about application. This is a tablet, a smartphone. This is an application they are using or creating. And this is a new creative area. We'd like to have more human resources, and also we would like to have a space for creativity enhancement for children. And not only that, we are asked to create towns and communities by having children as the center of this community. And information terminal will be provided to each one of them so that we will be able to create future environment, new future study or learning. This is what we're doing together with the children. Some time ago, there was a future study. We have started past incidents are the ones we use as a base to think about what is going to take place in the future. This is not only learning what happened in the past, but we'd like to foresee what can be expected in the future. 2011, from Duke University, professor, he said one thing. Well, my children will become adult, and at that time, 65% of currently available jobs will disappear in the future. When I read that paper, I thought it's going to become a reality. When I was a child, there was a ticket taker, but it has become automated, and the bank teller was taken over by bank ADM, bank automated cash machine, and internet is taking away human jobs. Well, children will see 50% of currently available jobs disappear in the future. So maybe 65%. Creativity will contribute, and turnover, loss of 65% of currently available jobs. This is what I put emphasis upon with future study, new future study. Well, in the past session, Master of Ceremony did not make any message. And Is it okay to get involved? Of course, it's better to have your messages. Well, 10 years have not passed yet. However, 10 years ago, small children are now grown-ups, right? And what are they doing at this moment? Well, after 10 years of my work, those children are now almost university students. They're still children in a way. Children in the past are now university students. They participate in our activities as teachers. And it is a human resources spiral we are creating, which is good. But your question, by the way, what kind of impact was felt?
The biggest challenge in the past 10 years is how we can measure the success. How can we prove that children's creativity have been nurtured? We've had this discussion in the past, but globally there is no proper definition of such success. But from a qualitative point of view, we have seen some effect. When we do study or survey amongst children, participating children and their parents, we oftentimes hear that they're become more proactive, their concentration has improved. So qualitatively, we have observed some tangible result, but it's quite difficult to quantify. But I think it's okay just to have a qualitative result or assessment. But when you question the impact of this kind of activity, I would say like children are more encouraged to create something new. Their level of motivation has definitely increased. That's one good result. But if we were to implement the same thing in the formal schooling system, we need some quantitative result. I think it's good that children have a better sense of confidence in their creativity. But I think initially children may have felt uncomfortable presenting their creativity to the other people. Expressing their creativity may have been found embarrassing by some of the children. But if once children gain confidence in presenting their ideas and displaying their creativity to the other people, I think that's good. I interacted with like 350,000 children so far cumulatively. When you were little and when you were given a color pen and paper, you would draw something. But if you become like 10 years old and when you start objectively assessing your ability, you stop drawing. So initially, the drawing something was never embarrassing, but once you get to a certain age, you're exposed to the social norm and so on, and you would have a sense of embarrassment. So I think we just need to provide the environment which does not make children feel embarrassed at all in whatever creative work they are engaged in, and that's something we need. When did two of you start presenting your own creativity? When I trace back my own history, even when I was little, I had a tendency of breaking up anything that was given to me. So I was that kind of child. And when I was in elementary school, wood block print, and drawing pictures were not associated with any of my strong memory. So making something was totally different in my own mind from drawing something. So when it comes to arts and design, when I was in primary school, I always thought that I was never good at it. And that was the assessment given by my school teacher. So I was considered as poor artist when I was at primary school. So I thought that I'm very poor at writing or drawing or any kind of art. And I thought that art was something very difficult for me. So that's my mindset in primary school. And when I went to junior high school, I had no interest in arts. And then when I went to advanced to the university, well, I studied usability at the Department of Mechano-Informatics, so ergonomics, design, comfortable shape. Those one were quite popular, I found. And manufacturing was very much linked with the design art, and that was a great finding of myself in university years. And I felt like my artistic sense was spoiled or damaged by my teachers in primary school, especially art teachers. I felt like they are farther away from the creativity. Art teacher will, instruct you how to color painting or how to create art. I have a vivid memory. I was on excavation, a school trip in elementary school, and I had the brush, and my art teacher said that you should not draw a silhouette with a solid line, and art teacher said that you always use dotted line. And I guess that teacher really liked impressionist paintings. That's why he or she instructed me to always use dotted line. But my style is to use solid line, bold line, and my art teacher always corrected how I drew. And I became to hate art and painting over some years. I can understand. One child drew Christmas tree in blue, and his mother came up to him and then says that the Christmas tree is always in green. And this child tore up the paintings and disposed. And I asked, why did you do that? And then he said, oh, it's because my painting was poor. But his painting was not poor at all. But the fact that his mother kind of denied his painting is what mattered to him. So with that, he thought that he is not good at art. Now I have better insight into art and design, and when I look back the art classes given by art teacher, I thought that everything that's taught by art teachers were about technique. And I think art teacher back then were very much enthusiastic about using dotted line. And she was very much into it, I guess. What's difficult in art is anything that has something to do with technique. When you start talking about technique, you will start debating something a little bit different from creation. I guess so. That's kind of the unfortunate fact. I sometimes feel that my art teacher in primary school could have done a little better job in guiding me. But the sense of satisfaction in creation is very important, so we can't just talk about technique in the art area. But if art teacher has had some expertise in certain area, he or she tends to talk and teach a lot about it. So creativity, art, design are discussed on the same ground But when we combine those elements together, creativity, art, design, they are sitting very close to each other, but not exactly the same. So that's the difficulty. Someone asked me, "Oh, you wanted to develop an artist," but that was not my intention. No, I wanted to brush up the creativity level of children around the nation. It was not my intention to create an artist. Sometimes people would associate creativity with art. And I discussed about the definition of creativity with some people. And there are three types of creativity we found. One is genius, like Picasso or Nobel laureate type of creativity. And the second type of creativity is more about IP, copyright kind of creativity, like industrial design.
So at the very end, well, mother at home finds something in the refrigerator and she will fix dinner. And maybe a child coming back home will find a different routing coming back home. So this is in your daily life. This is also creativity. Well, the very first thing is creativity, right? And I was talking about the Nobel Prize recipient and so on. And this is not only one creativity, but the creativity is everywhere. Yes, how can we educate people to become creative? Well, in my company, when new people are joining my company, well, these are professionals, highly skilled people joining my company, and creativity is what I would like young people to come up with and express as their opinions. This is what I've been thinking about always. If you call creativity in university or graduate school, after they graduate from graduate school, creativity is very clear because they have their own themes they would like to work on. Very clearly, these people, after graduating these institutions, can say what they would like to create. Those people can manage how to be creative. However, what's interesting is that creativity is one thing. In my opinion, there are two types of creativities. What kind of education is not what I'm talking about, but young people and my junior people, when I look at them, there are some characteristics and talent and capabilities. They have a lot to do with creativity. The very first category people is like this. To create something, this person intent, interest, and characteristics should be closely related with their creativity work. Why did you make it? Because I liked it. This is what I wanted to do. These are the first group, category of people. Second category of people is like this. Well, this is something to do with their thinking. Within their mind, they did not have such desire to create what they like, but they would like to design something for other people. One chair, more they observe people who'd like to have some product, they can create. This is subjective and objective types of people. What do you mean? Well, artists will create something for themselves. Designers create things for other people. So this is a difference between art and designer. This is almost like old rhetoric you have. But designers, they are sometimes subjective so that it is very helpful for other people. Design thinking. Yeah, I agree with the design thinking, but partially, in a way, I feel a little bit of doubtful feeling. Design thinking is pretty good, very good, because, well, from objective point of view, you will achieve users, and it has become so systematic effort at the very end, which is good. But subjective people, well, objective people's design thinking will be taken into subjective people. Subjective designers will come to a halt, ending spot. So it is kind of what I feel dubious. Mr. K. This is from Keio University. Is it like me? He is very subjective. And there's one objective person. But subjective view will be applied to objective designer. There are so many books this subjective person has read, but it was not so successful. Well, the best user is you. So I need to create something which will be appreciated by the user in your brain. There's so many elements in your brain, characteristics and what environment they were brought up with. Something is very closely related with your creativity. So educate creativity is one thing. However, there are two different types of people, subjective people and objective people. I think it is a rough categorization, but from two different groups, they pursue something different from two different arenas when they approach users. Well, it's not, which drawer you have to open to design something for users. You take it for granted, of course. But when you design, these two groups are kind of having no border between the two groups. So I am not a person educate people, but when I get together with my young employee, I kind of think that what kind of categorization does he belong to, and what can I do to make more progress out of this person? Well, he might be a very subjective person, but he can come closer to objective world by stepping one more step forward. This is something I have been thinking about nowadays. For instance, if you try to design a chair, well, subjective person thinks that, I'd like to have this type of chair. Objective person thinks that, there are many people sitting on a chair, and you make an observation. Well, this is what most people would like to have. But latter part, objective person, well, in their daily life, they do not have so many complaints. They are open when it comes to applying products and the end result to many different people. But subjective designer has a strong desire to create something which he likes. Well, constantly, all the time, subjective person thinks that it is much greater chair. Well, but thinking process is almost the same in two different groups of people, subjective, objective. Yeah, design thinking has been pursued by different groups of people. It might be so from appearance, from syndrome. At the very beginning, from a scratch, these two groups of people may not be so deeply involved. Well, subjective person, yeah, he may start observing objective people, but subjective person cannot be involved with objective thinking, just like a mirror. Neuro. Well, these are two different neuro cycles, subjective and objective people are different, but at the very beginning, yeah, there are big difference between two groups. But creativity should be pursued by different ways by approaching two different categories of people. May I? Well, to nurture people with creativity, first one is subjective, the second one is objective. Well, objective person thinks output. Well, but probability of having better product is greater with a subjective person, or maybe objective person can come up with almost the same as or subjective result. If the subjective person creates much better ending, maybe this is your talent which will create something great. Well, it is so difficult to draw one straight line and say which is good and which is bad. Well, these two groups have their profession and result which is more suitable to these two different groups. But when it comes to quality, there's no major difference between two groups. It has nothing to do with the subjective objective. Parameters are different. For instance, experience in different groups will impact end result quality. Well, right in the front, it is possible to nurture talented people to have good creativity. I think so. Well, once you understand how you can become creative, what you are at this moment is here, but what they'd like to achieve in the future, there's a big difference between them. From Yahoo, there was something very great. Well, this is what I have overheard. Gap fill. It is a very good word I have learned. Well, this is almost like a buzzword in my company. Gap fill. Well, who you are, what you are at this moment, and future you. There's a big difference between you. And gap means it can be filled. This is what you have to do.
And employees oftentimes talk about a gap-filling activity. So what they are doing is to challenge employees on a constant basis. The company expects that their employees can do more, can do better. We have about 40 teams in my company. And I really like the environment working with them. The environment, atmosphere would impact the creativity quite a lot. Even if it might look like a trivial idea, you would feel comfortable presenting it. Or you always find someone who can support your idea. You know, that kind of atmosphere, company culture is very important. Subjective people tends to criticize objective people and the other way around, but not the other way around. So subjective people would tend to criticize objective thinker. It had something to do with the design brand activity in Europe, like independent, renowned designers have power. But now anonymous people can demonstrate a great creativity. That is the fundamental mindset of design thinking. So it's like these and anti-these. But our generation, I guess, is looking beyond that subjective, objective, observation, realistic aspect, designer aspect. All of those elements are residing within one individual. And depending on the type of the project or expectation, people would draw one of those abilities. We have modernism, postmodern, and different art schools, and now we are having design thinking, and what's coming next is something we oftentimes discuss. How do you describe yourself? I am a subjective type of person originally. I'm intuitive type of person. But I oftentimes am amazed by the work produced by objective people. And I enjoy watching their works as well. And am I using or applying design thinking well enough? I don't think so. Professor Tsunaga is proposing a modified version of design thinking. 10-year-old, you will go back to yourself when you were 10 years old and you ask yourself, what do you want to do? You can get a very pure answer and you can kind of generalize yourself from objective viewpoint. Yes, that's meta-creation. So you would go back to yourself when you were 10 years old, and then you can get best out of your idea. And if I take a shuhari process, I think that's something between hard to be. You will question what's taught, and then you will come up with an anti-theme. But beyond that, you will find new you. In order to create your best way of working, you create something by yourself. To support the create a thinking process for yourself, for the sake of yourself. If you can do that, you can establish your own thinking process. The deliverables, consequences will be improved. But recently, I think timing is very important. I guess Professor Inami would feel the same. When you teach students, I believe you would feel timing is very important. At what timing should I give what kind of instructions? In 97, if I start saying that, oh, your idea was actually invented by someone else in 1973, that would ruin the creativity of a student. Yes, I see your point, but I also want to talk about the creativity as a team, like a collective creativity, as opposed to individual creativity. In certain era, we see many genius coming out. When I conduct children's workshop, by having someone complementing children's idea, children's creativity all of a sudden can be enhanced. So creation by name or through design, democratization. I wonder how much rooms are left for individuals to demonstrate the creativity. I guess more is about the collective creativity nowadays, but what do you think? I think it's really varying. Looking at the social norm, various fields are overlapped. If you want to create something big, you can't do it by yourself on your own. That's something I feel in my everyday work, and becoming more and more difficult. Many years ago, car design could have been built by one individual, but now, if you wanted to work on car design, you need to have a good understanding of society, AI, and so on. So car design is not a work of one individual. And now you have to engage yourself in a high-level conversation, and you need to have a capability of integrating different parts of thought. The definition of creativity in that context now changes. I guess creativity is a comprehensive capability which includes a communication power. I guess communication capability is very important in the overall creativity. Well, you now talked about the team creativity, so I have some question. You know Watson cooking. Watson and IBM collaborated and came up with a new menu. If you can partner with someone who can complement you, and if you can work as a team, the deliverables will become better. What do you think? Beyond the wall, let's say there is someone or some computer. Does that change the nature of thinking? I don't think so. Mr. Habu once said that when he fight against the computer, when young player compete against computer in shogi, sometimes young shogi players will have better sophisticated sense. Ideas sometimes get surfaced in a very unexpected occasion. For example, sometimes I get idea in the meeting, but what I can tell based on my own experience is that one good idea can develop in a small chat for 2 minutes, 3 minutes. unofficial conversations. So the question is, how can we get the power of computer in those unofficial occasions, like serendipity? When AI is advanced, how much creativity can be complemented by computer? That's something I'm very much curious. What is the future creativity? Creativity was thought to be a domain of humans' intellectual activity. But looking at the existing AIs, for example, Google engineers are making their subjective selection as to what kind of AI mechanism they would use. But anyways, we are getting close to the ending time, and with the remaining time, I would like to entertain some of the questions the audience may have. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, out of the blue, I was asking the audience, come up with a question. Well, creativity. Since a long time ago, it has remained the way it is, or depending upon what era you are living in, creativity has different connotation. What is creativity? Well, with what and what you decide is creativity. Well, I think Ishido-san, I think I have a similar opinion. Digital tool is changing our creativity from a different point of view. There's a gap between what we have done and we are facing at this moment. I'd like to see clear-cut gaps, but there are so many things which have not changed at all, no matter what era, age you are living in. Well, creative thinking, which have never existed in the future, can become a reality with new tools, different tools. That's nice if you can make it a reality. Well, I think time has come. So I'd like to come up with a summary message. Ishido-san, yeah, KMD, I was teaching engineering. So when I joined KMD, there were some colleagues, and artist was Minami, Professor Minami. Yeah, I think that was a background philosophy, Professor Minami. But from engineering point of view, there were some issues I have faced, but that was my background, and two of you have been world-renowned active people, and we have listened to what you think about creativity. Thank you very much. And also, in the future, of course, you are really creative, but you will be producing lots of creative people into the world. By taking these opportunities, we'd like to have more discussion in the future so that we can have very interesting. Well, it's fun to create something, to give a birth to something creative. And it's very entertaining. We get involved. I get involved with the creation, but recipients will be very happy having fun. This is what I'd like to see, like Nico Nico result. Thank you very much for taking your time out of your tight schedule. Thank you.